Despite being in a terrible position, food security-wise, just a couple of decades ago, the city actually produces a surplus of food daily. So they need to preserve a lot of it to avoid waste. The local pre-prepared dishes on this shelf are all made with food sourced locally from community gardens, local farms, and edible forests. The food library has a team that uses community-submitted recipes, which can all be viewed on the food library website, to create dishes with these foods. I know they also do courses in the kitchen for community members. I took one actually with my grandson when he was probably about 5 or 6, and I learned how to make a pasta dish. These meals, like all else in the library, are of course free to the public to take. This concept was tricky to navigate at first, as we had some individuals stocking up, hoarding stuff. But over time, when people realized there would be an abundant amount of food at all times, people started just taking the food that they needed for that day, sometimes a few days at a time, which was much more manageable. For me, it's been really nice to be able to have beautiful dinners with my family without having to spend the whole day cooking. One of the things I miss most is some of the foods that we used to be able to get imported from overseas. Now that global distribution has all but grinded to a halt, we consume only what we can grow locally. So there are certain types of cuisine that I miss. This was one of the aspects of the library that was not well received, and still isn't. But with the necessary elimination of fossil fuels and the return to a more agrarian-type society, this was hard to get around in any other way. There is a contingent of food historians who believe, had governments reacted to climate and food crises earlier, we could have preserved the ability to source food from overseas. Many, myself included, blame the government's slow reaction to the major existential issues for slowly making foods from other cultures and produce from overseas more and more difficult to recreate here.